Welcome in to the Top 5 Tuesday edition of Main Street Sports Today, where we are presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Wade Neely sitting in his saddle, joined by the one, the only, Calvin White 55 on Twitter. Calvin White in your hearts and programs. He is the Northwest Regional Sports Editor for Clarksville, Maine, Houston County Herald, Robertson County Connection, and Main Street Preps, and just all around good guy. Did I nail everything there, Calvin? Good afternoon.
I'd like to say so. Thanks for having me on today, Wade. I'm excited to make my first full-time appearance on Main Street Sports Today. We're giving Mo the day off. We're going to bring David in tomorrow, but for right now, me and you are going to have a good next 2 hours, hopefully bring the people a good show.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it. You are correct. And for those that have missed the last couple of episodes, we're tweaking. We're doing a little summer cleaning, summer maintenance here. And so Calvin is right. He and I will be holding down the fort most Tuesdays going forward. He and David Wilson, another mainstay of ours here on the program, will be here tomorrow. David and Mo will link up on Thursday, and then yours truly and Mo back on Friday. So kind of excited, kind of fun to tap into the show, Calvin, but really, if I could just be candid or frank here to start the show, I'm most excited for what I'm feeling coming out of my air conditioning unit right now, because the last 48 hours at the house have been a little sketchy. It has been borderline a sauna more than it's been borderline an office. But I'm pumped, and thanks to the worldwide powers of HVAC and air conditioning, I'm a little comfortable now as we get into the show today.
Yeah, that's going to be big for today's show. I didn't know your HVAC was broken until you sent the text earlier. You know, we don't want you sweating on the stream.
Yeah, no, we want to keep the perspiration to a minimum on this show. Whether that's our guests or our hosts. So, yeah, we're back. We got the AC pumping. Things are good, and luckily it was a quick and, as producer Mark Rogers will appreciate, a cheap fix. So things are on the up and up there. Speaking of the show, Calvin mentioned it. We got a big show lined up for you today, folks. Coming up in our second hour, we will talk, as we do almost every Tuesday, with Chip Walters, who's the MTSU Blue Raider voice. A lot going on campus. We've talked a lot about big ribbon cutting ceremony that's set to take place tomorrow. They got some other media day events coming up on campus here in the next week or so. They got a lot going on. So Chip will join us at the top of the 3 o'clock hour. Also in that 3 o'clock hour, Calvin and I will dip into the grab bag. We got a wild number of stories to cover. We'll go from preps to pros, as we often try to, at least on every show. And we look forward to kind of doing that in the grab bag. And then to wrap up our show, it is Top 5 Tuesday. Calvin, we try and think of, somewhat topical Top 5 Tuesdays. And this maybe is topical, but I kind of thought about it. I said, we're in this business, and high school football season has already kind of consumed us. But, there will come a point in the next couple of weeks where you essentially have to sign the contract with the loved one or significant other and say, hey, I'll see you when I see you. So that got my wheels spinning, and I said, top 5 places to maybe go on a date. So hopefully we can produce some compelling theater there in that final segment as we kind of bid adieu, in a sense, to our loved ones here over the next couple months.
Yeah, that's the plan. I kept all my picks, somewhat, personal things that I've done with my girlfriend and things like that. So hopefully I can throw out some good ideas for the people out there that might need an idea.
Yeah, top 5 places to go on a date. We will get into that again in the second hour as we got a big show lined up. Coming up here in just a couple of moments, however. First hour, we will have our top story coming your way in just a matter of moments. We'll also have the rundown, of course. But we will be joined in our first segment out of that by Matt Brown from Extra Points. He's back from Brazil, taking an international trip, heading overseas, and he's back. He's rejuvenated. He's going to give us an update on all things across the college landscape, kind of from a business lens. I really want to ask him kind of what's the deal with Memphis and the Big 12 and that offer that Mo and I discussed last week and how that panned out. We'll also ask him, he is kind of the NCAA football on consoles kind of guru from a business standpoint, so we'll ask him about that. But Matt Brown, good friend, will join us. And then Calvin, you're a Braves guy. Good win for the Bravos last night.
Yeah, one of few this season. It's on the rundown. We'll talk about it later. Michael Harris, came alive for this past week. I believe he was National League Player of the Week. It's been very few and far between. The Braves have picked up some good wins throughout this year, but the last couple of days they picked up a couple.
And you gotta savor those wins now, because you're in a spot where they're not as frequent as you would like, but that's kind of where we're at. And Houston hadn't been much better, as we'll get to in the rundown. So that's kind of a brief glimpse at what we got going on over the next couple of hours here. As I mentioned, producer Mark Rogers is behind the scenes making the magic happen. Calvin, I don't know about you, but I say we pop the seal on this show officially. Are you ready for the rundown?
Let's do it.
All right. With that being said, let's kick it to producer Mark. And ladies and gentlemen, let's get our Monday rundown underway.
This is the rundown.
To the rundown we go, and that means we give you Tuesday's rundown via starting with Monday results. And as we mentioned a moment ago, it was the Braves defeating the Royals last night 10-7. The Nationals took care of the Astros 2-1. A couple of WNBA scores from last night. Seattle with a 101-85 victory over Connecticut. And this is not a misprint, folks. This is not a misprint. But the Dallas Wings defeated the New York Liberty last night 92-82. Score was a lot more lopsided than that at one point. But 92-82 is your final for your WNBA scoreboard last night. Calvin, I'll give it to you for our schedule for today.
Wade, this is where we have our first production error. I don't see the rundown.
Fair enough. I will make sure that you get that going forward, but it's a brief schedule, so I'll just go ahead and hold the reins down there. I apologize for that, but schedule for today is as follows. At 6:40 p.m. on FanDuel Sports South, it'll be the Braves at the Royals. At 7:10, and not a moment before, it'll be the Nationals and the Astros resuming their series. We mentioned the Nashville Sounds yesterday, heading up to Pennsylvania. They will be at Scranton at 5:35. Yes, Scranton, PA. The Nashville Sounds at 5:35 tonight. Trio of WNBA games this evening, two of them beginning at 6:30. It'll be Chicago at Washington, and Golden State will be at Atlanta. But wait, there's more. At 9 p.m. tonight, if you stay up late, you can flip over to NBA TV, and you can see the Las Vegas Aces, who are playing the Los Angeles Sparks. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your Tuesday schedule. That was your Monday results. Those were your Monday results. And that concludes today's rundown. Top story, as always, brought to you by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly over at Neely's Mill in Columbia. Make sure you check them out for your delicious daily deli lunch options. And everything, I mean everything, is cost plus 10 at the cash register. Once again, Piggly Wiggly at Neely's Mill over in Columbia, bringing you today's top story. And you really couldn't have scripted this any better. The story itself, maybe not so much, but the fact that Calvin is joining us today, smack dab in the middle of all things Clarksville. And we go to Clarksville for today's top story. News coming down yesterday that Austin Peay is on the hunt for a new athletic director, as they have lost current athletic director to Marshall. And Calvin, as this story kind of is unfolding, selfishly, I immediately was thinking to myself, oh man, we got just the guy to go to. So when Gerald Harrison resigns, kind of walk us through how you got the news and how kind of things have processed. You can read that story on Main Street, Clarksville, as we speak.
Yeah, I believe it was last Thursday. I woke up and I saw a tweet from a college football account I had never seen before. And it was just a generic tweet about Gerald Harrison was rumored to be the next athletic director at Marshall. And so I start putting out feelers with the Austin Peay people. And then I think about an hour or two later, I saw Chris Lowe from ESPN tweet out that it was official that Gerald Harrison had resigned from Austin Peay and he was expected to be the next athletic director at Marshall. And so I think it was yesterday, Austin Peay finally sent out the press release saying it was confirmed. Gerald Harrison is going to be the next vice president and director of athletics at Marshall.
So kind of breaking news there, right in the wheelhouse there of Calvin again in Clarksville. Gerald Harrison is set to be introduced as the next AD. Big news for Marshall's campus. But Calvin, I immediately kind of wonder, and I kind of pivot to Man, this is a guy that was at APSU for 7 years, and it felt like they really kind of had achieved a lot of things, both athletically and kind of academically under his tenure. How big of a loss in your mind is this going to be for Austin Peay?
I think it's a huge loss when you look at, some of the coaches that he hired over his tenure. Scotty Walden spent 3 years in Clarksville as the head football coach, took them to the FCS playoffs his last year here before taking the UTEP job. Corey Gibson, who he hired as the men's basketball coach, took the Governors to the ASUN championship game in his first season 2 seasons ago. Cassie Stanfield, the softball coach, this past season, she tied the program record for single season wins. Austin Peay softball team won 39 games. She's already the winningest coach in program history. And when you look at what Roland Fanning has done with the baseball program, I believe they had 5 or 6 guys drafted last year and another 3, 4, 5 this year. So most of the major sports that he's hired a coach for is in the middle of one of the the best stretches in program history for most of those sports.
And that's what I'm glad you said that, because that's kind of what jumped out to me immediately. It feels like every now and again an athletic director is hired and you see immediate kind of growth or immediate success in one area or one program. A school hires somebody and all of a sudden their women's basketball team just flourishes, or their softball team flourishes, or men's basketball, but everything else kind of sags behind a little bit or is stagnant. That was what jumped out to me the most, kind of what you just mentioned, that everything seemingly Gerald Harrison kind of touched in terms of hiring and day-to-day seemed like it got better during his tenure.
Yeah, and he's been around. He's been at some of the premier, schools in the country. He started, he was not an assistant, but he was on the Tennessee football staff when Philip Fulmer was still there. He spent a decade at Duke in various roles. That's how he met current Austin Peay football coach Jeff Ferris. Jeff Ferris was wide receivers coach, I believe, and then tight ends coach for David Cutcliffe at Duke. So that's how that hiring ended up happening. And, Gerald Harrison's been around. Like I said, he's been at some of the premier institutions in the country. He's a guy that knows what he's doing.
Absolutely. And, Calvin, kind of being there in town and kind of around and kind of plugged into that community, is it too early to speculate? Or if we are going to speculate, is there an immediate name or two, even on campus, that might be a potential suitor for this role in your mind?
I don't know about on campus. Like, I don't know who would be, kind of tabbed to be the next person over there. But in the release Austin Peay put out yesterday, they said that they will begin a national search in the next couple of weeks, and then they will also provide more details on an interim replacement for Gerald Harrison. So it appears to be that they will hire somebody interim maybe to get through football season or maybe even this athletic year, and then look at a more permanent replacement.
Yeah, and kind of in that vein, we just, Mo and I have talked about some coaching searches, primarily at TSU, and kind of some turnover with the Belmont basketball staff. It's kind of an odd time, kind of a late in the game type time. Athletic administration, that's kind of a 24/7 job, so maybe that doesn't catch us quite off guard. But Gerald Harrison is going to Marshall, going up to West Virginia. He replaces Christian Spears, who had been there since 2022. So not a lengthy tenure. From what I've read online, sounds like his contract was just not renewed. And, for a guy, Calvin, like you mentioned, that did so many great things and has kind of a rich pedigree, you never can really truly speculate or forecast. But to me, it feels like West Virginia got a great fit, kind of been still somewhat up and coming athletic director to take their program now to the next level.
Yeah, I think he'll be a really good fit at Marshall, especially at a program like Marshall that has a really rich football history, has a really good men's soccer history. I believe their men's soccer team won the national championship a couple of years ago. So, everybody's always looking for the next step up, the next best job. And I think that Marshall and Gerald Harrison are going to get along very well.
Harrison will be on campus, according to an Austin Peay press release now I'm reading, till August 15th. So he'll be around for a little bit. Some of the comments include, to my entire Austin Peay family and the Clarksville, Montgomery County community, thank you for embracing me and my family and for standing behind Clarksville's home team every step of the way. While we are excited about what lies ahead, me and my family will always carry this place as special in our hearts. We leave with full hearts, lasting memories, and deep appreciation for everything that makes Austin Peay remarkable. Some words there from now outgoing athletic director Gerald Harrison. And Calvin, it feels like we've had this same kind of conversation in terms of the coaching ranks at a school like Austin Peay. It's great, and when you strike lightning kind of in a bottle there, and you really got an up-and-coming program, or you got a great up-and-coming coach, and you got to fight like hell to kind of keep them on campus, and unfortunately, those schools usually lose that battle when the big dogs kind of come calling. I'm kind of curious to see what step Austin Peay does take here, because, man, for a guy that has brought so much success, he stayed there a little bit longer perhaps than maybe I had thought because of that success he might. But this was the right place, the right time, and now I'm kind of real curious to see what the Govs do going forward.
Yeah, I really think, like you said, kind of when we talk about how the smaller schools usually lose the battle in keeping, really good employees, coaches, players, things like that, especially with the job that Gerald Harrison did at an athletic department as small as Austin Peay, it was only a matter of time before he got a bigger and better job.
Yeah, and one other kind of question I wanted to ask you specifically, kind of Calvin, being there in the mix in Clarksville. We obviously know the F&M Bank Arena obviously is just such a massive undertaking for that, really, not just that campus, but that community after so many great years with the Dunn Center there. What other kind of achievements? You always gravitate toward coaching hires and program success, but what kind of else did Harrison do behind the scenes, whether it's facilities or otherwise, in your mind that kind of jumped out that is going to make him difficult to replace there?
Yeah, like you said, he partnered with the Nashville Predators to get it to where Austin Peay men's and women's basketball could play at F&M Bank Arena. And then in 2022, he secured the biggest donation ever to Austin Peay's athletic department. The athletic department received a $15 million donation from Joe and Kathy Maynard for just overall athletic department touch-ups. Just whatever that money needed to go toward, that's what it went toward. So he helped get Austin Peay men's and women's basketball in F&M Bank, and then secured the biggest donation in athletic department history.
Massive number there for, again, a school like Austin Peay's size. And again, if you missed this story, you can check it out. Calvin wrote on Main Street, Clarksville. Make sure you check it out. But again, our top story today, presented by Piggly Wiggly over at Neely's Mill in Columbia. Austin Peay Athletic Director Gerald Harrison, right down the road from us here in Nashville, is headed to Marshall. So that's a dose of college biz to kind of start the show. Obviously, some breaking news here in and around our community. What if I told you we could go a little deeper in the weeds on the state of college athletics and the kind of sports biz landscape? That's exactly what we're going to do on the other side of this timeout. Our good friend from Extra Points, the one, the only Matt Brown, is sitting in the saddle. He will join us when we come back. We will talk all things college athletics. We will talk a little college football. We might even sneak in a little EA Sports action on Matt. You never know. But it's on the other side of this timeout. You're watching Main Street Sports Today, where we are always presented by TOA of Columbia.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need...
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
bee, oh, busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now I'm
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Welcome back, folks. You're watching Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by our friends at the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That is Calvin White, Wade Neely here. And as we mentioned just before break, there's always something to talk about in the world of college athletics, kind of really from a business standpoint. And who else should we reach out to? He's back, ladies and gentlemen. He is the one and only Matt Brown, extrapointsmb.com, and he joins us now. Matt, good afternoon.
Hey, fellas. Thanks for having me back.
We're glad to have you, and I got to ask you first and foremost, when I hear word from Mo and when I see tweets from you, you know, you're saying you're going to Brazil, number one, I get the FOMO beyond belief. So give us an update on how the trip went. We're glad to have you back stateside.
Yeah, I was in Brazil for most of the last 2.5 weeks. It's funny because I got the most gringo name possible here, Matt Brown. That's because my mom fell in love with the white guy. I'm actually Brazilian. Most of my family lives in Brazil. My sister's in Brazil, my cousins, but my kids had never been there. So this was a chance to take my whole family down, let them see some toucans in the wild, swim with some capybaras, drink some delicious fruity drinks that are more sugar than alcohol. And it was wonderful. I wouldn't say it's the most relaxing kind of trip you can do. I don't know if any of you guys have ever tried to travel internationally with small children. That's not a vacation. That is parenting without home field advantage. But that doesn't mean that it's not deeply fulfilling and wonderful and a chance for me to finally unplug for a little bit. Glad to do it, but glad to be back too.
It sounds like a small version of the proverbial Disney World trip. You know, you want to make the memories for the kids, but man, it seems like it's a real undertaking.
That was exactly, I think, what we were saying multiple times throughout this trip was we are trying to build core family memories. And we just have to not say the swear words out loud and suck it up and just kind of keep going.
And so we're glad that you are back, and we're glad that you have kind of gotten acclimated a touch. What was the one issue? Were you keeping any sort of tabs on all of your realms? Kind of were you away? And if so, if you weren't, what was one thing that jumped out to you immediately upon return? And we lost Matt for a second. He's a sharp cookie though. He'll hop back in a second. And Calvin, I don't have kids either. And what Matt just described sounds borderline nightmarish. I've heard the stories of, taking kids to Disney World and even theme parks and things of that nature. I can't imagine trying to load everybody up and go to an international country for 2 weeks.
No, I couldn't either, and I don't have kids either. Most of the time, I can barely get myself on a plane to go anywhere, much less internationally.
Yeah, I sympathize with Matt there, even though I'm obviously not kind of directly in that situation. Matt Brown from Extra Points, he's going to hop back in with us hopefully here any moment now. But Calvin, we're going to ask him a couple different things, and really we're kind of going to get into the weeds of the business kind of lens of college athletics. And again, you can read his great work on a number of different platforms, not just social media, obviously, but also at extrapointsmb.com. And so camera's not working, but we could hear Matt. Let's see if we can bring Matt back in audio only here.
All right, fellas, can you hear me?
We got you, Matt. Sorry
about that.
Sorry for your video woes, but we've got you back in, and we're delighted to talk. My question a moment ago, were you keeping any sort of tabs on college athletics while you were away, or was this strictly kind of an unplugged trip?
I was trying to be unplugged. And part of the reason when I go on vacation, I generally either go to the woods or go internationally, so I won't be tempted to work. It's something that my family pushes me for. But I will admit, I did file one story when I was out, because a couple of days after I had left, I got an email from a source of mine at a conference office that sent me the documents that led to me breaking the news that the college basketball games are coming back, and that EA plans or had put in a bid that CLC had put out an RFP for to bring back college basketball video games. That led to a follow-up story about 2K's plans for that series. And because I didn't bring my computer with me, I tried to dictate the story via a voice memo, I tied up on somebody else's Wi-Fi, and then somebody back in the States was able to type it up for me. So I'm still in the process of trying to advance that reporting. But, I think I heard you guys mention this on the tease coming in here. I am one of the reporters that spends a lot of time writing about video game licensing. That's one of the questions I get the most ever since breaking stories about the college football game is, Matt, when are we going to get basketball back? And now we have some answers.
Yeah, and you just kind of unearthed something for me there. I was unaware that 2K was getting involved too. And just from a competition standpoint, I don't know about Calvin's thoughts on EA Sports, but in certain genres, I've gravitated toward 2K over EA. So from a competition standpoint, it sounds like college athletic video gaming is back and booming.
It's going to be interesting because I don't think it is entirely clear exactly who is going to make what game and when. What EA is asking for right now is an exclusive license for what we would call simulation-based games, right? Like right now, nobody else can really make an officially licensed college football game and have Tennessee and LSU and Alabama participate in it, unless it's something like NBA Jam or college or Football Manager or something, a fundamentally different kind of game. So EA is asking all the schools for that same licensing, and it's saying, if you give us that, we'll make our first game in 2028, and we'll include every single men's and women's college basketball team, including Austin Peay, Chattanooga, East Tennessee, along with those big programs. What 2K is saying is, don't give us an exclusive license. But unlike EA, we actually know how to make basketball games. EA hasn't made a basketball game in 6 years? They haven't made a good one. Maybe since before Calvin was born. It was
a while.
It's been a minute, right? I think I burned out my NBA Live 97 CD somewhere, but it has been a long time. So 2K is saying we can make one next year, essentially. It won't include every team. It's going to be, start with a couple dozen Power 4 programs. We'll kind of scale up from there, or we'll add it as DLC within the NBA 2K universe. But you don't have to give us an exclusive license. And right now, it isn't clear whose bid is. I mean, what's going to actually happen? CLC, the Collegiate Licensing Corporation, is telling schools you should take EA's bid. EA is going to pay you more money. EA is going to include more schools, and 2K is fighting hard against that.
Calvin, what you got?
Yeah, like you guys said, I've kind of grown up on, 2K basketball games. I don't really even remember an EA basketball game during my lifetime. I've grown up with the 2K games, and I think that even over time, I think a lot of people would tell you that even the 2K basketball games have kind of gone down in quality. You see a lot of people say that every time you buy an NBA 2K for the last 5 or 6 years, it's the exact same game. So I think that since they're trying to get away from NBA 2K and bring back the college games, I think even if it is a game that only has most of your Power 4 teams and none of your smaller schools, I think that'll definitely be a big seller just because there hasn't been a college basketball game in so long. I think the last one was one with Blake Griffin on the cover.
Yeah, and I had the 2K game from back in the day with Greg Oden on it. And God bless Greg Oden. The man looked 60 years old when he was still in college. So now the thing looks positively Paleolithic. Part of the challenge, too, though, about all of this, and you guys might not remember it, like when we had the college football game during the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 era, it was perennially a bestseller. It routinely moved over 1 million units. And this was in the era before people downloaded games. If you wanted to buy a copy of NCAA 13, you drove your butt to GameStop or Target and you bought the physical disc. And that's why you cared so much who was on it. They stopped making the college basketball game years before then. Both 2K and EA used to make basketball games. They suspended the development of those games in 2011, 2012, because not enough people were buying them. There were two developers making college basketball games combined. They sold less than 500,000 units across 2 different titles. And that's part of the reason why we haven't had a college basketball game now, even though there was a lot of pent up demands. And obviously the football game sold a gajillion copies. And that's part of the reason why 2K has been more conservative with how much money I think they want to spend in making this sort of project. Because sickos like me, and maybe some of you guys who do this for a living and are desperate to get on the sticks and go take some Patriot League team to the Elite Eight. There's a hell of a lot more people in this country that care about college football than they do college basketball. College football is one of our most popular sports across the country, not just in Tennessee. College basketball is niche. That doesn't mean that it's not great. That doesn't mean that it's not exciting or that we don't love the tournament, but it does not have the same nationwide appeal as football does. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see who ultimately ends up delivering this game and what on earth constitutes a successful release. It's not going to, no basketball game in college is going to sell 2 million units plus like football did.
Yeah, that part will be fascinating, and you gave me some old warm and fuzzies there when you mentioned taking a Patriot League team. I used to pick Army back in the day on the Legacy mode or whatever it was officially titled. So that was fun. And Matt, I'm curious while we're talking sports biz / video games here. What was kind of the ultimate take home or fallout from the release of last year's college football game, and then from a licensing or kind of real ins and outs with NIL? What changes did they make going into this year's game? I'm curious about.
Yeah, they really made quite a few, because when I would talk to people that worked at EA and when I would talk to people that were like financial analysts for a living, whose job it is to track the stock performance of Electronic Arts, the consensus across the board for everybody, I think I even talked about it on the show, was we expect this game to sell well, College Football 25, but not sell more than Madden. We don't think it's going to be set records or anything. And what ended up happening is this game moved more consoles than anything since Grand Theft Auto. Hundreds of thousands of people who are not playing video games, who quit when they were in college, bought a PlayStation 5 just so they could play this game. And in terms of just pure units, College Football 25 was the best-selling sports game in the United States ever, which it beat most of these financial projections by like a factor of 3 or 4. Wow. So for schools, that was great news, because if you are a school like Tennessee and you were assuming you were going to get a licensing check for like $114,000 from EA, you ended up getting one for like $800,000 or $900,000 or more. Schools made a lot more money than they were initially expecting. And if you were a smaller school, that became a really effective way for marketing. Like, think about how many people in this country became aware of Kennesaw State because they were the popular expansion meme team last year. Whereas otherwise, if you're not a college football sicko or don't live in metropolitan Atlanta, you don't know what state Kennesaw's in. But now, like, half of America that has a PlayStation picked it up and it was like, give a hoot and learning about the school. Like, that's invaluable. Like, Boise State leaned into that, last decade before. What's happening for this year is in part because there's more competition in the licensing space, and in part because this game sold so well, the athletes got a lot more money. Last year, the typical athlete who didn't get a secondary marketing deal got, I think, $600 and a copy of the game. This year, they got $1,500 and a copy of the game. And some athletes who are really big stars got secondary marketing deals that paid into the 4 and the 5 figures. And the schools changed up how the licensing's happening, which I think is interesting, because it used to be EA would decide how much money they were going to pay the school based on how successful a football program you were, how many times you finished in the AP top 25 over a decade. Which is funny, because then you have a team like Nebraska make like less money than Liberty, or less money than like Florida Atlantic or something, right? But now it's based on how often people play you in the game. So if you're listening out there and you're like, I want to help Vanderbilt get extra money, you should play as Diego and you should play as Vandy in your dynasty and pickup, because if you and all your buddies do that over the thousands and thousands you do over the course of the season, you're going to go get a bigger check to Vanderbilt. If you want to do that for Memphis, you could do that. If you want to boycott a school, you can do that. I mean, is it going to send anybody to like the poorhouse? No. But I think it might lead to a school like Akron or Kent State or Kennesaw getting a nice 5 or 6 figure check at the end of the year.
Matt, I like what you just said from an MTSU standpoint. In a sense, yeah, maybe I should just boycott any games against Western Kentucky is what I'm thinking.
That's many people are saying this. Yeah,
I love that. Talking with Matt Brown from Extra Points, all things college biz. And while we're talking money, Matt, this was kind of what I reached out to you last week about. Mo and I were talking about the Big 12 and Memphis, and I'm curious What exactly did go down, and what exactly, where exactly, I guess, from a Memphis standpoint, do they kind of turn their attention to now?
Yeah, what Memphis attempted to do, is, as best as I understand it from reading the national reports and from asking around, is that Memphis tried to buy their way into the Big 12, not unlike SMU did with the ACC. And the big difference was Memphis wasn't just saying, yeah, we'll forego television revenue for the next decade until the next TV deal, but we will bring in some of the big corporate partners within Memphis, places like Lowe's and FedEx, to sign huge sponsorship deals with the Big 12. So if you bring us in, Big 12, not only are you going to save money by not having to share the television lucre, you're all going to get an extra check, because we're gonna bring in so much corporate sponsorship money. This should be a low to zero risk deal for any of you. And they all said, no, thank you. Which I understand can be very frustrating if you're a fan of Memphis. And there's not very many other G5, G6 programs that could ever possibly come up with something like that. But I think that speaks to the concerns and among university presidents and broadcast partners about Memphis extends beyond just pure dollars and cents. It's about facilities. It's about university leadership. It's about sustainability. It's about success across multiple sports. And that isn't to say that they can't figure something else elsewhere, but it doesn't really make financial sense to drop that same deal to join the Pac-12. Because if you're spending up $1 billion to get in the Big 12, you're making a bet that they're not going to kick you out after 8 years. And then that next TV deal in 2032, if we still have a Big 12, I don't know, maybe Jesus comes back. Maybe we're all in the Premier League at this point. Who knows? But if there is still a Big 12, you're going to make it, $40+ million a year from TV. If you could mortgage your future and spend all of Fred Smith's estate money to join the Pac-12, and you're making exactly the same amount of much money you are in the American Athletic, and now you have to fly to Idaho and California for everything, that's not as attractive. So that's really what the school has to figure out. We don't want to be where we are now. We don't want to be in a league with UTSA and Rice and North Texas and everything, but there's nobody else out there that has a better competitive and financial situation that will take us. So all you can do then is raise money and win.
And I find that part fascinating too, Matt. And I made the initial comment is it felt odd that the Big 12, the conference that was exploring selling their own league naming rights for sponsorship opportunity. It just felt weird that the Big 12 would turn down $1 bazillion, like you mentioned a moment ago.
I did think it was a little bit strange, and I want to be careful with my words because I don't want to get out over my skis in speculation. But my educated guess here is that there are reasons other than money why university presidents are particularly skeptical about this school. I have been a full-time working sports writer since 2011. I think I've written 4 different stories about Memphis trying to join the Big 12. They have been more public in that pursuit than almost anybody else. And as best as I can tell, it's never come especially close. And some of Memphis's attempts back in 2016 when they brought in, Justin Timberlake and they sent ribs to everybody, and they also tried to leverage the FedEx relationship. My understanding was that went over very poorly with some of those presidents. So whether this is some kind of classism, whether it's some kind of personal beef, whether it's provincial bias, whether there's something else going on under the hood that I don't know about, I don't know. But I do think this is about more than just dollars and cents on a spreadsheet.
Talking with Matt Brown from Extra Points, all things college biz. Matt, what other? Obviously, this was the one that shook us, or struck us kind of in a local sense, but also we're talking about as big of a brand in Memphis that's really not in the Power Four. But what other tea leaves or other truths are you kind of unearthing in terms of conference realignment as we kind of continue on outside of Memphis here?
Sure, and that's been a pretty consistent thing that my publications covered. Before the end of June, there was a real strong incentive for as many leagues to figure out their realignment decisions before July 1 as possible, because that's when everybody's exit fee becomes more expensive. And now that deadline has come and gone, there's generally not as much incentive to work really, really quickly on securing some of these realignment deals. And so I wouldn't be surprised if more of those conversations spread out, maybe even beyond football season. And most of where you're going to see that stuff in the near future is not in the FBS level. In this neck of the woods, I know we were just talking about Austin Peay a few minutes ago. Like they're in a new league, right? They are all of their sports, football, the whole works is going to be part of the UAC, and that's part of a kind of a larger split with the ASUN. That league needs more schools. So does the ASUN. They're both going to be fishing in similar waters. So there's going to be lots of conversations about schools in the Southland, schools in the southern part of the Coastal Athletic Association, potentially making moves. The SoCon is also looking to add 1 to potentially more football playing members, and they're going to be having conversations with those similar institutions. So I recognize it might be popular for message boards to pop off about UNC joining the SEC or anything. Like, that's not something I think is going to happen in 6 months. But if you care about FCS football, you care about 1 AAA, there's at least a half dozen leagues that are actively having conversations right now about changing membership.
Calvin, what else you got for Matt here?
Matt, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but like you said, we don't really know why the Big 12 and all these leagues are saying no to Memphis. But is there any indication that Memphis is going to try to go somewhere else? Probably because when you look at the history of the Big 12, especially in men's basketball over the last couple of years, that's been one of the premier leagues in the country. Is there somewhere else that Memphis could potentially try and go just to get out of the American?
Well, it's a good question. So we know that if you leave the American, you have to pay a pretty stiff exit fee. Right now we're looking at around $20 million if you want to get out. So if that's the price you have to pay, and if you're Memphis, you're going to have to pick up that money through outside fundraising. That means you need to go someplace where you feel very confident you're going to make enough money to make that worth it. And that's been one of the challenges with the Pac-12. We would love to have Memphis football, but the Pac-12 television deal is not so much better than the American Athletic that you can justify throwing $20 million into the wood chipper and then also have to get on a flight for every single sport because it's all going to be in a different time zone. And that's been part of the challenge with some of the conversation about, hey, maybe they'll join the Big East for basketball and everything else. Same issue. You still got to find a place for football, and you have to find a way to make the math. And the television deal from the Big East right now is not so much better without a strong football home to justify that kind of walking away. So the only other really option is the ACC. Well, and now you're going to have to beat SMU's price and deal with the same kind of academic classism you had in the Big 12. If frickin' Kansas State and Arizona State don't think you're an academic peer, I don't think North Carolina, Duke, Miami, and Boston College are going to take you. So you're really kind of boxed out a little bit. Could things change in 18 months? Sure. We don't know what private equity is going to do. We don't really know exactly what's going to happen with some of the ripple effects from House or these future lawsuits. But I don't see a lot of other options for a school that wants to move up in the world, but doesn't have the money and resources to completely just buy their way into anything.
Makes sense. And Matt, before we let you get out of here, we were kind of discussing a number of different schools there, and we're talking about conference moving and shaking and, extra revenue potentially coming in through either private equity or the video game licensing. What's one school, either in your mind or kind of we see a little bit of a trend. What's one school that maybe is primed to kind of blossom here in the next couple of years in your mind, if one exists?
So I think that's a good question. I'll give you a real curveball, right? One that's a low major right now that I think has a pretty.
And that's kind of what I was thinking initially.
Sure. Yeah, I would be bullish on UTRGV. Texas Rio Grande Valley. They are starting a football team for the first time this year. I'm going to go to their season opener. They're down in the Southland, but that's a huge school. It's 30,000 plus enrollment. It's in a absolutely football and sports mad part of Texas, way right there in the Mexican border. I think there's some unique television revenue things you can do across both countries. And it's rare to have a school that is growing enrollment and is in a metropolitan area where you're not competing with 5 or 6 other schools. So I think somebody like them has a possibility for some strong growth. A private school like Cal Baptist that has like $1 gajillion, I think would be in that position. But maybe the more interesting question for me on my beat isn't so much about particular schools, but about what are the new ways people are going to try to find other money? Because everyone right now is following a pretty similar playbook. I got to get corporations to sponsor my football field. Now I guess we could put ads on the field itself. We're going to sell tickets. We're going to try to be on TV. Eventually, we're going to have
you're going to have corporate patches on jerseys. I think that could happen as early as next year. I mean, everyone's going to do that. But who's going to figure out something different? And I don't think you have to be LSU or Texas or Tennessee to be the first one to figure something out. The schools that were quickest to jump on the beer bandwagon, for example, were mostly low majors. Maybe there's something here in the music business that an MTSU can figure out and scale before everybody else does. I think that's an interesting business question.
Yeah, and you kind of walked right into what I'm thinking. I'm kind of curious on some of those low majors to see kind of what sort of outside the box kind of methods that maybe strike gold, and then inevitably 3 or 4 years later LSU copies what they do. Matt, real quick, I said final question a second ago, but it just dawned on me too. How did you explain to the rest of your family back and down in Brazil what you do for a living, and kind of give us the questions that they maybe had there?
It is so hard. I just go like, "Eu sou jornalista," and kind of and leave it at that. I think because, as I'm sure you fellas know, nobody else in the world does college sports like we do. There's a tiny number of countries that have college sports at all. Canada does it. Japan does it. Mexico, a couple of schools in Mexico do it. Nobody in Brazil does this. So you're trying to explain, like, I write about college sports and I write about college sports business. Like, that doesn't compute. And even the idea of, like, I write about, developmental academies or like Series C Brazilian soccer or something, that wouldn't really compute either. And while I speak some Portuguese, fellas, my Portuguese is not good enough to explain what the hell a Purdue is. So I just say, like, no, I'm a sports journalist. I write emails for a living, and we kind of leave it at that.
I love that, and everything that you just said was kind of mentally what I was picturing. So I'm glad it played out in my head exactly the way that it did with you. And Matt, we're glad that you made it back. Hopefully you had a great trip, and we certainly appreciate your time, and we always look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you very much. Hopefully next time we have the camera actually working. We'll have to dig down and figure out what was going on there with the cords. Thanks, fellas.
Thank you, Matt. That was Matt Brown from Extra Points, talking all things college biz. Calvin, we got into a lot there. And, I was going to get into the video game portion at some point, but, we kind of jumped right into it. And I am fascinated, just as a gamer, obviously, I'm excited about the news and, played the heck out of last year's game. But, man, it seems really cool and really fascinating that a school like a UTSA or, Tulane perhaps, that those schools could really get creative with their marketing and try and grow their programs through an outside source, as it were.
Yeah, and then you see a lot of schools, because whenever the game last year came out and then whenever this year's game came out, they would put out social media posts it'll just be like the mock-up of the video game school jersey, and they would just be like, "We're in the game." Those tweets just blow up just because everybody's excited. Everybody that's a fan of that school or potentially even a student of that school is just excited to have the opportunity to play, as a lower level school if they go to schools like that.
Absolutely. So always fascinating stuff. When we get Matt on, we will bring him back another time or two to kind of peel back more layers of the onion. It's always evolving. And yeah, we learned today that it does not transcend internationally very well. We're a big old unique country when it comes to college athletics, to say the least. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, Calvin and I will dip our toes into the MLB waters. We'll pay our respects to Mo with a This Day in Braves history, and it's going to be a good one, so make sure that you come back for that. We'll talk all things MLB. We'll talk Braves and Astros and all of that on the other side of this timeout on Main Street Sports Today, where we are presented by TOA of Columbia.
If you want the latest in weather conditions, be sure to tune in to our Busy Bee Plumbing Weather Report each weekday on Mornings on Main Street. Brought to you, of course, by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. We will keep you updated on the latest conditions outside, like severe weather, heat, snow, rain, and even hail.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
They walk among us, but at 240 miles per hour, they become something more. They're thrill seekers, risk takers, and maybe just a little bit unhinged. Buckle up. This new era of speed, this racing revolution, it's just getting started.
On July 29th, 2018, Sean Newcomb comes, I should say, within one strike of throwing the Atlanta Braves' first no-hitter since 1994. Newcomb had walked Yasiel Puig in the sixth, but had not surrendered a hit through 8 2/3 innings. He even worked a 2-2 count on Dodgers leadoff man Chris Taylor, who promptly singled to left. That was the end of the night for Newcomb. He was lifted for reliever Dan Winkler, who then allowed one hit, an RBI single by Manny Machado, but did record the final out. Newcomb finished that contest 8 2/3, one hit, one earned run, a walk, but had 8 strikeouts in the win. Atlanta over the Dodgers 4-1. That was this day in Braves history. And Calvin, going back through that story, I kind of had missed, I guess maybe it was back in my brain if I dug deep enough, but I kind of forgot how close Newcomb was to that no-no, and I certainly had kind of forgotten. The Braves, for such a rich franchise history, Kent Mercker back in '94, the last no-no.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I think that Chris Taylor put that single right down the third base line, right past the bag to where Johan Camargo couldn't get to it. And yeah, like you said, when you think about all the pitchers the Braves have had over the years, Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, Tim Hudson there for a little bit, Max Fried even recently, you would think that at least one of those guys would have put one on the board, but none of them never did.
Yeah, A.J. Smith-Shawver had a decent run at one earlier, but, man, to get within one strike, that is tough. So, but good news is Sean Newcomb and the Braves, at least on that day, back in 2018, got the win. Calvin, we touched on it in the rundown. Kind of a rare victory last night, but an interesting one. Braves bats showed up in a 10-7 win over the Royals.
Yeah, and like we said, in the open of the show, that's been one of the few times that the Braves bats have shown up and they've actually been able to hold on to the lead and win. I think it was against the Diamondbacks a couple weeks ago or probably even a month ago. They were up, I think 7 or 8 runs and going into the 9th inning, and then the Diamondbacks, scored 7 or 8 runs in the 9th to tie it. I believe it went to extras, and then the Diamondbacks ended up winning. So it's been very rare, at least this season, for the Braves to, 1, put that many runs on the board, and then 2, hold on to them.
Good win for Spencer Strider last night. Not necessarily his best outing this season. It's been kind of a rough year for him, but had the goods to get the win. Atlanta dropped Rich Hill to 0-2. We've talked a lot about his return to the MLB. Atlanta trailed 2-0, but got 2 runs in the third, 2 runs on an Osuna bomb in the fourth, tacked on 1 in the 7th, 4 in the 8th, and then added 1 additional in the 9th. Made it a little interesting. Still gave up 3 in the bottom of the 9th, but that was as close as Kansas City got. So a good win for the Bravos last night. That sets the stage for tonight's game. We gave it to you on today's rundown. Atlanta will be right back in action, 6:40 p.m. on FanDuel Sports South. Fetty versus Lugo. Calvin, where do you sit in your Braves fandom these days? It has been a disappointing season, to say the least. I'm kind of just getting a pulse check on you right now as you enter this game 2 tonight.
Yeah, when after the first month or two, we kind of got past the phase where everybody was like, "Oh, they'll figure it out. Let's just give them time." When you're as bad as they have been this season, when you get into this time of the year, the season's basically over. When you're 15 or 20 games under 500, and then the other couple teams in your division just happen to be some of the best teams in the sport this year, in the Phillies and the Mets. So, I'm not as consistent a watcher these days as Mo probably is, but, I'm still keeping the pulse on the team just to mainly see, what big lead they're going to blow or see if they'll lose another 1-0 game.
Yeah, I gave Mo props yesterday. He needs hazard pay for. I don't know why he does it. He subjects himself to these baseball games when Atlanta's 45-60 at the moment. Houston, meanwhile, I don't know why I subject myself. The good news is I kind of just catch up on them on this show, and it's a good thing because last night was a frustrating one. Last night they fell to the Nationals, trying to maybe get back tonight when they go at 7:10 versus Washington. But Calvin, real quick, I did want to mention, in addition to the Braves, it was kind of a neat nugget that you pulled on a particular Royal that, if you're not a fan of Kansas City or you're not really in the weeds on baseball, Bobby Witt Jr., maybe not necessarily your household name just yet, but this guy is absolutely raking and doing kind of some incredible stuff historically.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the stat right now. I know I sent it to you. Bobby Witt Jr. is the first player in Major League history with 15-plus home runs and 25-plus stolen bases in each of his first 4 seasons. And really last year was kind of his super breakout season. I think he finished second in the MVP voting to Aaron Judge. Bobby Witt Jr., if he's not already a superstar, he's well on his way to being one of the premier, if not the best shortstop in baseball.
Yeah, 25 years old, last year's batting champ, 2-time All-Star now after this season. He's on the come-up, as they say. And again, Atlanta and KC will go back to the drawing board tonight, as will Houston and Washington. Other news and notes across MLB. Calvin, we would be remiss if we did not mention the passing of Ryan Sandberg at age 65. For myself growing up, not a Cubs fan, but just a good overall baseball fan, the tributes, I guess, now really kind of put into context what a great guy and what a great player this guy was that passes away at 65 after a bout with cancer. A memorable career. The original 23, a lot of folks will maybe in Chicago remind you, wore that one before MJ got to town, but Ryan Sandberg losing a battle, unfortunately, and passing away yesterday at age 65.
Yeah, and I think that I think most people would have Ryan Sandberg in, at minimum, probably one of the top 5 best second basemen in the history of baseball when you think about him and guys like Joe Morgan and Roberto Alomar. Ryan Sandberg's second all time in Gold Gloves by a second baseman, one behind Roberto Alomar. And especially when you think about a storied franchise like the Cubs, who have had Hall of Famers like Ernie Banks and Billy Williams and Greg Maddux and players like that, Ryan Sandberg is right up there. If Ernie Banks hadn't played for the Cubs for so long and was as good as he was, Ryan Sandberg is probably the best Chicago Cub in franchise history.
Yeah, a outstanding career. Passing away again tragically, losing a bout with cancer at 65. He was the NL's MVP in 1984, led the league in home runs with 40 back in 1990, and that was back when 40 was, again, an eye-popping number. So that is very impressive for him. Lifetime career average 285, 2,386 hits, 282 career dingers, drove in over 1,000 runs and stole close to 350 bases. 10 consecutive All-Star games, 9 consecutive Gold Gloves. Everything that you just said, Calvin, is backed up. That ain't just, nostalgia speaking. I mean, he had the goods statistically, and he was a fan favorite kind of in and off out of the clubhouse.
Yeah, and I think everybody, especially or at least most people, when they think of Ryan Sandberg, they think about that game he had in '84 against the Phillies, or against the Cardinals, excuse me. He hit a home run in the 9th and the 10th inning to tie the game. He hit the one in the 10th inning off Bruce Sutter, who's in the Hall of Fame as a closer, and helped the Cubs go on to win in extras. But that's probably the one thing people think about, or the one game people think about when they think of Ryan Sandberg.
Lost a great one. Again, Ryan Sandberg passing away at age 65 after a courageous bout with cancer. He was born in Spokane, Washington in 1959, and again passed away July 28, 2025 at age 65 years old. That takes us to the top of the hour, and we are going to take a quick break. On the other side of this timeout, we'll kick off hour number 2 of Main Street Sports Today. We will be joined by the good friend of this program, this mighty fine program here. It'll be Chip Walters, who's the Blue Raider voice. We will get an update on all things MTSU on the other side of this timeout. So come on back for hour number 2. It's Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia, rolling right along. That's Calvin White, Wade Neely here, as we dip in to this second hour here on Top 5 Tuesday. Coming up at the end of the show, we will give you our best places for a date. We have a date every Tuesday, it seems, with our next guest, however. That is the one and only, and I mean one of one. He is Chip Walters. He's the Blue Raider voice. Chip, top 5 places for a date. Should be a fun little segment to close things out. We prefaced it by saying, you know, we have to bid adieu to our loved ones, you know, for much of the fall when football really cranks up. So you got to squeeze in your dates when you can get them right now.
That's true. And yeah, trying to think around since you're where are you in Pulaski today? Where are you?
I'm in Nashville.
You're in Nashville today, and the Cowboys up in Clarksville, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, good. Well, I'm sure where you are, Wade, of course, you go up there by John Rich's house on Lover's Lane up there out on the west side of downtown. That's I'm sure that's where you take your lovely. But every town has its little secret spots, no question about it.
Yeah, I was thinking, Slick Pig doesn't sound too bad for a little Tuesday date as well. If nothing else, you get some cheap sandwiches down there in the borough.
$1.50 sandwich a day. That's right.
So maybe, I may have to broaden my horizons a little more. I was thinking Slick Pig, but Lover's Lane has got a little bit better ring to it there.
Well, just being the romantic at heart, there, I was thinking about you, trying to help you out a little bit there.
I appreciate that, and I will jot that down. Don't you worry about that, Chip. Chip, as we kind of dive in, we've talked about this a number of times in the last couple of weeks, but it's kind of finally here. Give us
we've been talking about.
Yes, really, if you want to dig in the weeds, but give us the absolute latest on as we get set for our ribbon cutting ceremony tomorrow.
The brand new $66 million, 85,000 square foot Steve and Denise Smith Student Athlete Performance Center. I think I made sure I got it all official there. Will be officially open after a ribbon cutting tomorrow. That'll be at 9:00 right there by the Hall of Fame building, north end of the football stadium. Free and open to the public. I mean, there are a lot of people who have contributed, from $100 to $1 million. They've been part of this, and so many people have a vested interest in it, and so it is open to the public tomorrow. There's a private event tonight for the Smith family, and so that will be an opportunity for them. And there's a great look at that building, and just kind of where you're looking at it right now, just to kind of give you a little lay of the land, what you're seeing there. The big glass part, that is the third floor. That is the SRM Concrete Club, which has the Uncle Nearest Sports Bar inside of it. It is a full-service bar that'll be there that is a premium seating area in the stadium. On either end of the glass parts, those are private boxes that seat 40 people. One of them, I can't remember which one. I think the one on the right is already purchased. The other one is available for purchase on either a season or game-by-game basis. So that is kind of the hospitality part of this building. It'll also be used for that area will be used for team meals. There at the bottom, right below that ribbon board, you see all those smaller windows.
Yeah.
Well, those are the coaches' offices. And kind of right in the middle, you see one with a door. That's Derek Mason's office. The defense will be to the right, offensive coaches to the left. That is the second floor of the building, which also contains media room, which is very nice. I was able to go upstairs and see it the other day. All of the position breakout rooms are on the second floor. Then there's a very large coaches conference room that is very unique. I want to look at it again before I give you a good description of it.
Okay.
I just remember it being a very unique look to it. There's a full defensive room. There's a full offensive room. And then there's the coup de grace, which is the full team theater meeting room that has 160 big boy rocking chairs like you were at the fancy movie theater. And it's that's all on the second floor. Then the first floor will be used by all student athletes of all 17 sports. You come in and there's a nutrition center. There is you can go directly into the athletic training room. If you go to the left, you can go directly into the Kevin Byard strength and conditioning area, which is about 4 times bigger than the old weight room. The football locker room is on the first floor, and to say it's fantastic does not do it justice. It is each locker is just crazy with all the storage space and how unique that is. And of course, it has a direct exit straight onto the field from there. You've got football equipment area, which has all these rolling walls, and it's not like the old cage that you would, see guys behind. It has a completely different look to it. It's really something special. There's 3 hydrotherapy pools. There's red light therapy. I mean, there's stuff I don't even know how to pronounce in this building, but it is super nice. It is an absolute game changer, and it'll be open to the public tomorrow. Again, the ribbon cutting will be at 9 a.m. and as soon as that happens, the building, you can have the run of the building and go look at each and every office, check behind every door, look at everything that's in there. Can't take a dip in the pool though, or any of the pools and I'm trying to. The one thing my question is, which ones are hot, which ones are cold? I definitely don't want to dive into the cold pool, but it is. I mean, you'll see more video on social media about it. The football team got their first look at it over the weekend, and they got turned loose in there to go find their lockers. But they will get moved in officially after the ceremony tomorrow, and we'll get ready to open fall camp. That'll be their new digs starting on Friday.
Chip, go ahead, Calvin.
Chip, even though this building's mainly going to be for football, you mentioned the athletic training and the nutrition stuff that kids from other sports can use. Even though the NIL is kind of turned into the leading recruiting method this year, how important is it? How important is it for schools to still have facilities like this for kids?
And I think we all would say, hey, well, we'd love to have had this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but things happen on their own timetable, and that's where this is. And I don't think you can ever get away from kids not wanting to be in a nice building and have nice surroundings. And you're right. This is, and we kind of talked about this 2 years ago, how this building, while as you mentioned, the second floor in particular is mainly all of football. That's where it's going to be all football. Everything in football is going to be in this building. But all the other athletes, whether it's strength and conditioning, athletic training, nutrition, recovery, all sports get that done. What it also, the dominoes that fall behind that, Calvin, is that football moves out of Murphy Center, which opens up office space, which opens up the area where the equipment room currently is. That all of a sudden becomes new space that can be reimagined. The old football locker room will allow men's basketball to finally expand out of their, friendly confines, we'll call it. So the first thing that had to happen was this new building. And, I would expect also within a year, you're going to start seeing construction on what's going to be a very substantial renovation of Murphy Center. That's already in the state budget. Also, Bill Blue funds will go toward that as well. This is going to be close to a $70 or $80 million renovation to Murphy Center. And a lot of it is going to be things you don't necessarily see, like, a lot of the infrastructure, like HVAC and plumbing and electrical, things that you need to upgrade after 50 years. Those things are going to happen, but there are going to be some very, very visible things that will happen, like a new grand entrance into the Murphy Center building from that Hall of Fame building corner, Greenland Drive corner, that currently has those god-awful step-and-a-half steps that everybody has dealt with for 52 years. And what will happen is you will have a big atrium that you'll walk into, very similar as to when you walk into Bridgestone Arena. And inside that big atrium, you'll have a team shop, you'll have tickets, you'll have other things like that. Then you'll have elevators and escalators that'll take you to the track level, which will also be renovated as well. Not all of the plans are complete on that, but this tomorrow is the first domino in what's going to be several. Well, actually, it'll be the second domino. The outdoor tennis facility was actually the first project in Build Blue. That was an $8 million project. This is a $66 million building that's getting ready to open up. You're going to have the next phase is Murphy Center. And the final phase in this series of phases of the Bill Blue project will be an indoor facility for that will be used by, again, primarily football, but all sports will be able to take advantage of it.
Chip, I love what when you kind of just ran through that, and obviously, if you go to goblueraiders.com, you can read more about this. But I kind of love the concept. It feels like anytime there's a massive project on a college campus, you have a tendency, or you just natural as a human, you just want to sit back and kind of admire your work. But I love the fact that this is part of a bigger vision, and you're keeping the ball rolling to kind of really make some big changes across campus.
Well, and it's there's no question that building has been needed for a while. Murphy Center, while it's had some upgrades along the way, this is going to be a pretty massive update that's going to happen. One thing I can tell you, and I don't know if you know it, Calvin, but they have installed already a new sound system in Murphy Center that it'll bend the windows. I was outside the building and they were testing it, and they were playing Hotel California, and it was, and the building looked like a cartoon building with how loud the sound was. But so that's already kind of in the works. The new control room that will be controlling all the video boards in football and Murphy Center, and possibly even baseball and softball. They may be able to run the video boards at every athletic venue from a control room, which will also double as the control room for ESPN Plus telecasts that are produced in-house. So a lot of technology, upgrades there. You've got about 150 feet of new ribbon board that's on the front of the SAPC. So you're going to have ribbon board all down the east side of the stadium, and now all the way across the north end. So I'll say this, having gone up into the press box trying to get a little work done between the new turf, the new building, and the way it all lights up, Floyd Stadium is going to have a completely different look to it when you walk in there this fall.
Fascinating stuff from our good friend Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice. Make sure you follow him on the socials at Choose Chip. Chip, all that excitement, all that buzz, maybe not a coincidence that MTSU has suddenly announced that single game football tickets are now on sale for this season.
Well, timing's everything, and
I love it.
Take advantage while the iron is hot, and every game has a theme. And single game football tickets are on sale. Now here's where a deal comes in. End zone, you go up, you buy an end zone ticket. It's typically $22.
Okay.
Reserve sideline, $28. And in the world of college football, that's still a pretty good deal. No matter where you go. But for that opening game, and I'm really excited about this because I've been kind of prodding this for a while, and I'm not saying I have anything to do with it, but I'm happy to see it. We've had blackout games for probably nearly 20 years now, maybe. But this year, the Austin Peay game will be a whiteout game. Middle's going to wear white. The fans are invited to wear white. So there's that. That's also I think that's first responders night. Then you have September 20th against Marshall. That's homecoming. That's also Hall of Fame weekend as well as homecoming. The Hall of Fame class will be inducted on Friday night, the 19th. That includes, of course, Kevin Byard and also from football, Garth Petrelli. Missouri State, that is October 8th. There's a theme on that night too, and don't have it at the tip of my tongue, but that is one of the two newest members of Conference USA. That will also be on a Wednesday night. October 29th, Jack State will be on a Wednesday night, and FIU will be the ever popular and that we're very proud of. That will be the Salute to Veterans and Armed Services game on November the 8th. It's always the home game that is closest to November 11th. which is Veterans Day. And then Sam Houston, November 22nd. That is the Saturday before Thanksgiving. And hopefully, knock on wood, the day before I leave to go to the Caymans with men's basketball. We're continuing that campaign as well.
Yeah.
But
fighting a good fight.
That'll be Senior Day against Sam Houston. So there you have, probably as solid. That's a solid home schedule. And I think when you look at middle, football, you always get the question, well, how are you going to be this year? And you always have to look at, okay, how tough is your schedule? What do you have on the road? Things like that. And this year, Middle Tennessee has about as favorable a conference schedule as you can get. You do not have Liberty on your schedule. You don't have Louisiana Tech on your schedule. You've got home games against with Jack State being at home. You feel like they're going to be a totally different club than they were a year ago. They've had so many players that are going to be new, but so does Middle. 62 new players on the roster.
Wow.
42 scholarship, 20 walk-ons. So it will have a different look. And one thing for sure, when you look at the roster and you see these guys walking around now, it will be a much physically bigger football team. I think they signed 11 offensive linemen, something like that. And some really, really big kids. Couple of the best high school linemen in the state. The Otts kid he's from the Mid-State, and my man Otto Van Rensburg from Sevier County, who
that's
just
a great
sounds
football
like
name.
that sounds like an offensive lineman if there's ever been one. And so those are good young players, but they've also gone and gotten some out of the portal. You've got, you're the only school in the league that's got a quarterback that's thrown for 3,000 yards in back-to-back years coming back. So you have to feel good about that. Jerkale Middlebrook brings you a reliable pass-run threat in the backfield. And while you do have to replace Omari Kelly, you've got some guys coming out of the portal, including a transfer from Michigan who's like a 6'8" wide receiver. And you'd think that for Nick Vattiato, that would be you'd want to make friends with that guy pretty quickly.
Chip, kind of switching gears here a little bit. We saw yesterday former Blue Raider baseball pitcher Trace Phillips signed an undrafted free agent deal with the Tampa Bay Rays. Especially going to a team that historically has as good of a farm system as the Rays do. You think there's an opportunity for Trace Phillips to kind of work his way up through that system?
To me, Calvin, and I'll say this about pretty much any sport that has a draft, including the NFL, where Middle typically has players drafted or signed as free agents. If you're going to be a late rounder or like a last round guy or gal, whatever it may be, I've always thought that if that's going to be the case, you're almost better off being a free agent and being able to find a spot that's going to be a good fit. Find a place that's got a need for what you have. And I'm sure that Trace, he's got I'm sure he has a good agent, but he's had a really good career, both with his bat and with his arm on the mound. He had an injury this year that kept him out, so that probably kept him from being drafted. The season-ending injury that he had, but for him, maybe it works out in the long run that he's a free agent, can kind of pick a situation that might be more conducive for his success. And the one thing I do know about it, they're going to get not only going to get a good baseball player, they're going to get a better guy and a human being. The pride of Spring Hill, Trace Phillips. He is, he's just been a fantastic player, fantastic guy, and wish him all the very best.
We have a story up on the Murfreesboro Post from our own David Wilson. It says Phillips signed for a reported $629,200 deal with the Tampa Bay Rays, according to Baseball America's Carlos Collazo.
Do they need my number?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind some of that coin.
Says it is believed to be the second largest contract for an undrafted free agent in baseball history.
Wow. Well, that tells you right there that they thought there was something there. And I'm thinking back now when DeJuan Brazelton was drafted in 3rd overall in the first round by Tampa Bay. I'm trying to think what if his signing bonus was as much as Trace Phillips' deal as a free agent. That would kind of be an interesting thing to figure out. But that's great for Trace, and that's kind of for a guy who's just out of college. He will handle his money well, and you just know that from the kind of guy that he is, and that's generational change money for a guy like him, and couldn't happen to a better guy. Really tickled. I wonder who was the biggest free agent deal. Come on, Calvin.
Let's see if we can find it.
Step up, buddy. So.
Yeah, that's whose agent I really want, Chip, is the highest free agent deal there.
It doesn't say in terms of money, but it says the most successful undrafted free agent in baseball history is Bruce Sutter.
Well, yeah.
See if we can find money.
Well, that was big money when he either went to the Cardinals or the Braves after his time out west. But great for Trace, and now that's an arm that Middle's not going to have. So obviously, the coaching staff has been in the portal, and their roster's coming together, and those guys are getting ready to report as well. So it's getting to be that time of year for sure.
Chip, while we're talking baseball, we got 2 questions we want to ask you before we get out of here. One, unfortunately, is sad, and one is kind of more of a overarching theme for campus. But while we were talking baseball, we do want to at least pass along and acknowledge our condolences for the family of Michael McNabb, who passed away Sunday, it sounds like, at age 34.
Yeah, Dane McNabb, he from Loudon up in East Tennessee. Not only was he played from 2010 to 2013 and saw action every year. He started 25 games as a sophomore, and then was still a key contributor all the way through his senior year, and was a team captain on the 2013 team. And after his college days, he was a staff sergeant in the United States Air Force, which included a deployment to Iraq. And we certainly want to send our thoughts to his family. And in lieu of flowers, his family's asked that donations be made in his memory to the Wounded Warrior Project or to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And he will have funeral services coming up in Loudon, up in East Tennessee. And while we're on that, last week we lost Matt Peck, former women's volleyball coach at Middle. Took the Lady Raiders to 6 straight NCAA tournaments. Prior to that, had been coach at North Alabama, where he won a Division II national championship. Had moved after his career at Middle Tennessee ended. He moved to Florida, and that's where he was at his passing. But thoughts are there as well.
Absolutely. Hate to lose anybody, but certainly hate to lose 2 fantastic Blue Raiders along the way. Chip, as we close, give us more info. Man, a busy week for MTSU in a variety of capacities, but Blue Bloods in the Round is coming up this week as well.
That's right. If you like music, if you like great music that has even better stories about the songs, if you like songwriters' nights, those kind of things, this will be the second of one of these events. The first one was held down at the Humble Baron at Uncle Nearest. Big success. This one is Thursday night at 3rd and Lindsley in Nashville. Tickets, general admission tickets are $50. You can get reserved seating in what they call the pit, which is, I'm assuming that's going to be right down front. If those are like $500 a piece, but this is to raise a really creative way to raise NIL funds, and it was a ton of fun when this went down back in February. So they're going to do this again, and there's they've got a father and son and mother and daughter acts, I think, all songwriters. So it's going to be a nice deal. You can go online at goblueraiders.com. There's a link for tickets, and you want to get those and be there Thursday night for it. But yep, round 2 of Blue Bloods in the round will be in the center of country music, right in downtown Nashville.
Yeah, going to be a great way to celebrate all things MTSU. Man, yeah, Got the ribbon cutting tomorrow. Got that coming up on Thursday. If I remember correctly, Chip, we're going to have football media day next Tuesday as well. You're a busy boy these days.
Next Tuesday, and that'll be there. And I think all the Radio Row area is going to be there. If you look back at right outside those coaches' offices, they're on the concourse overlooking the football field. So I think they're going to be up there instead of on the practice field this time, just to kind of show off that building and the new turf and all that. So we'll see.
I love that, and we love catching up with you each and every single Tuesday. Chip, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck tomorrow, and sit in one of those big boy chairs for me tomorrow. I want to get an update on how the rocking feels.
I'll check it out. See you guys.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yep.
That was Chip
All right.
Walters, the Blue Raider voice, talking all things MTSU. You can follow him on Twitter at ChooseChip. Good catching up with our good buddy there each and every single Tuesday. That takes us to the midway mark here of hour number 2 on Main Street Sports Today. When we come back, Calvin and I will get into the grab bag, and coming up at the end of the show, before we bid adieu to our loved ones with the start of high school football season right around the corner, we'll give you our top 5 places to maybe go on a date. Chip even gave us some examples there. So we'll put together our collective noggins, and we'll have 5 on each of our lists there as we continue. You're watching Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia, and we are back right after this.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
They walk among us, but at 240 miles per hour, they become something more. They're thrill seekers, risk takers, and maybe just a little bit unhinged. Buckle up. This new era of speed, this racing revolution, it's just getting started.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Main Street Sports today presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, rolling right along alongside Calvin White. Wade Ely sitting in the saddle. Friendly reminder, folks, it'll be Calvin and David Wilson on command tomorrow. Mo and David Wilson on Thursday. Yours truly and Mo on Friday. But each and every single episode, as always, presented by our good friend, producer Mark Rogers. So make sure to squeeze in a little shout out for the man. It's going to make it happen as we go through some roster management, for lack of a better term, there over these next couple of days and weeks. Calvin, moving right along, we like to go from preps to pros as often as we can on this show. And since I had you at my disposal, already tapped into your knowledge when we led off our show on our top story talking about Austin Peay. Athletic Director Gerald Harrison going to Marshall. I want to just get an update. You and I were discussing before we went on air. It is prep season. It is football camp season. What's the latest out of Austin Peay football? What's the latest out of the schools that you're now covering in terms of high schools as we kind of kick off camps officially this week?
Yeah, starting with Austin Peay. Austin Peay brought in a lot of guys, out of the portal, just like about every school does this time of year. But Austin Peay brought in a lot of guys not from Power 4 schools, but from schools that are notable. Mainly Chris Parson from Mississippi State as a quarterback. He played his last 2 years of high school football at Ravenwood.
Mm-hmm.
He played 2 years at Mississippi State. Now he's at Austin Peay for Coach Jeff Ferris. Isaiah Groves, who I believe was a Mr. Football finalist 2 years ago for East Robertson. He was committed to Georgia Tech, and then I believe it was the first drive of the first game last year of high school football. He tore his ACL, and I don't know what happened with him in Georgia Tech, but Isaiah Groves is now going to play for Austin Peay. So there's a P4 level guy that's now at Austin Peay. Brought in a wide receiver from Miami, Shamar Kirk. So Austin Peay's got a lot. Jeff Ferris, talked to me at United Athletic Conference Media Day a couple weeks ago. He said that, this year's team is going to be a lot more talented than last year's team was, just because he was hired in December of 2023. So he kind of had to scramble in those 2 portal windows in December, January, and May to, kind of scramble and build a team. So Austin Peay is going to be a lot better than they were last year, at least on paper. And then, when you talk about the high schools over here in Clarksville, I believe it was 6 of the 9 teams in Clarksville were all in the same region last year. And so now with the TSSAA jumbling around, classifications and regional alignment and stuff like that, 3 of them stayed in the same region together, and then 5 of them, I think 4 of them, dropped down to Class 5A. So Clarksville, Rossview, West Creek are going to play in a region with Antioch, Overton, Cane Ridge, and McGavick. And then Kirkwood, Northeast, Northwest, and Kenwood are going to play in a region with Dixon County and Henry County. Henry County's been good for a very long time. But even though they're dropping down, I think that gives teams like Northeast and Northwest and Kenwood better opportunities to maybe win some football games, maybe put up some better results than they have over these last couple seasons.
Yeah, that Region 7, it kind of sticks out when you look at it geographically, right? Kenwood, Kirkwood, Northeast, Northwest, and then Henry County, who is obviously a bit of a power, but also Dixon County. They're kind of the 2 oddballs. It does make the travel a little easier, but you do have those 2 kind of not obviously off the beaten path entirely, but not being in the friendly confines of Clarksville, kind of on that schedule there.
Yeah, and then Dixon County was up in that 6A region last year with all the other Clarksville schools that were in there. So all of those teams that moved down with Dixon are no stranger to seeing Jeff Tomlinson and the Dixon County Cougars.
Absolutely. An update kind of on all things. Have you ventured out in the heat yet to see the boys in pads just yet. I've yet to dip my toes out, but that day is imminently approaching.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen anybody in pads yet. But I went and watched Clarksville, Rossview, Kirkwood the first couple of days after the dead period was over. And obviously that's not the same thing because they weren't in pads and it was the first official practice. I'm sure that even in the 2 or 3 weeks since then, everybody's gotten a lot better. But no, I haven't seen anybody in pads yet.
Yeah, I'm that's due up. Maybe on my Thursday, when Mo and David are going to get together, or maybe cruise on out and check some folks out. It's so dang hot. You got to get creative with your practice time. So we got the kind of the preps covered there. Let's venture into college football a little bit, Calvin. 2 stories, both positive. One was scary, but it has a positive note. We'll start with that one first. Deion Sanders, better known as Coach Prime, head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, wasn't aware of this. Maybe I should have been, or maybe it was kept a little more quiet, but he had a bit of health news that he revealed recently, overcoming a cancer diagnosis, dealing with bladder cancer, and suddenly had a life-changing medical procedure. I shouldn't be surprised. We shouldn't be surprised that Coach Prime, being that great athlete that he is a fighter. And but either way, that was kind of scary stuff. But it sounds like Coach Prime is on the up and up and still plans to coach this year.
Yeah, I was also not aware of this until I saw it maybe a couple days ago. But like you said, he's a fighter. He's a warrior, and no matter what people think of him, it's going to be better to have him on the sideline this season than to not.
Absolutely. Coach Prime offered to comment, said this wasn't easy. Me and everybody get checked out. Wasn't for me. If it was not for me getting tested for something else, they wouldn't have stumbled upon this. So he expressed his gratitude for that. Also, I thought it was kind of neat. He had the surgery kind of in-house right there at the Colorado facility, kind of keeping things close to home. Good medical shout out there for their facilities. But Coach Prime is back on the mend. They will be fascinating to watch this season. As they kind of now move into Colorado 2.0 with the loss of Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders there. So going to be fascinated. I mentioned we had 2 kind of upbeat stories. This one just like a good old school local newspaper type story. And as fate would have it, our good friend, Main Street Media colleague Larry Woody, the enigmatic Larry Woody, has got a special column. You can read that on virtually any of our Main Street sports sections. But Lane Kiffin, yes, Lane Kiffin makes a record catch. That's not a fish, I don't think, or maybe it is. According to Larry, it's a giant trumpet fish, which I did not know was a thing, I must admit. Recently caught during a deep-sea fishing excursion. Proclaimed it a record when he posted it on social media. 62.5 inches. Larry Woody, however, points out, while it is a big fish, it's not a record. So we see you, Lane, and that is impressive, but it's not a record. But nevertheless, decent haul, it looks like, for the ball coach down there at Ole Miss.
Yeah, and I didn't know this was a thing either. And now that I'm looking at it, I honestly wouldn't even assume that was a fish if you showed it to me and didn't tell me it was a fish. That thing's kind of scary.
Yeah, that was my thought. I mean, that's like octopus levels, and those kind of freak me out. Larry Woody, being the great outdoorsman that he is, he probably recognized that instantly, but I was unaware of the trumpet fish. And I love his lead here. Larry said, Lane Kiffin bragged about making a huge catch, and we're not talking about a prize quarterback. So I don't know, Calvin, if Lane is kind of relaxed and kind of loosey-goosey. They had such high expectations last year. I don't know how I interpret this because I feel like Lane is a little too loosey-goosey here. And to me, that maybe means some of the other SEC teams should be kind of worried the fact that he's, out having fun and catching giant trumpet fish here.
Yeah, he's not on the level of Hugh Freeze playing golf every day and not putting a team together. But I think everybody would agree that Ole Miss has been in a lot better shape over the last couple of years than Auburn's been.
No doubt. And those two have kind of traded some barbs. And I'm looking at Phil Steele's college football preview. He has Ole Miss, we'll call it middle of the pack. Kind of they're tied for 7th alongside Florida and Tennessee. Just a rung above South Carolina and a couple rungs above Auburn. So good to see Lane, at least out on the boat and kind of showing off there. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for what else Coach Kiffin might be able to catch. Let's move into pros now. Kind of some sad but also scary news. And it does, in a way, everything kind of has a connection. Everything kind of does relate to football in some capacity, it feels like. Obviously, the tragic news coming out of New York City yesterday after a gunman was involved in a deadly shooting. Again, that went down Monday evening. And New York Mayor Eric Adams has issued a statement. It seems that the potential gunman, a 3-page note was discovered that mentioned the NFL, mentioned brain disease, CTE, and don't want to speculate too much. Obviously, it's a sad situation either way. But it sounds like this potential gunman maybe had some sort of NFL league office kind of motive in mind, maybe even going to the wrong building. Kind of a scary situation. And, obviously there was a loss of life, so it's tragic no matter what, but it really is kind of eerie too that the NFL specifically was mentioned here, Calvin.
Yeah, and brain disease and all the CTE research has been something that's, been in talks around the NFL for probably a decade now, and that's always been a sensitive topic for people. Obviously, like you said, we don't want to speculate what went on with this, but I guess we'll just see how this plays out and just kind of pay attention to what comes of this.
Yeah, immediately it does seem like the NFL is at least going to kind of attempt to bolster some security measures and kind of really making this even scarier and perhaps more sad is a high-ranking NFL employee revealed to The Athletic that one of their staffers was struck by a bullet in the shooting yesterday. Craig Clemente has been identified kind of in the league's finance department. Sounds like he was struck in the back and maybe a ricochet type situation. So, man, it is just kind of obviously it was a scary situation. I was trying to keep up with it on news and local news as much as I could yesterday. But then also this NFL connection kind of makes it strike even closer to this show. Sounds like Clemente, who had just recently welcomed a new baby, was on the phone with other NFL employees, warning them to be safe and to evacuate the building. Man, it is a scary situation, and we will kind of keep tabs on that from a nationwide standpoint, but also obviously from a NFL lens there. Speaking of New York, speaking of the NFL, Calvin, injuries kind of come and go in preseason. Some get over-reported, some get under-reported. But if you're a New York Giants fan, the one guy that you want to make sure is okay, appears okay, but he left practice with a shoulder injury. We're talking about wide receiver standout Malik Neighbors. Sounds like he was dinged up in the last day or two. Yeah, and especially after the last couple of seasons for the New York Giants, they need everybody as healthy as they can get them, especially, after they just signed Russell Wilson. He's probably going to be their starting quarterback after the last couple of years of Daniel Jones. And when you talk about, practice injuries getting underreported and overreported, I think it was Nick Wright from FS1 the other day. He tweeted something out about how when people report practice injuries and they say somebody left the field on a cart, he said you need to specify whether they were carted off or they left the field on a cart, because carted off makes it seem like it's a potential season-ending type thing, and then leaving the field on a cart could just be like a cramp or something. So, but I don't think this is Malik Neighbors' case, but, like I said, the Giants are going to need everybody as healthy as they can get them to try and put together a good season. Absolutely, and whether it's Russell Wilson or even Jackson Dart or Jameis Winston, all three of those guys are looking at Malik Neighbors going down there saying, oh, baby, we need you at full strength alongside Darius Slayton. Sounds like Wan'Dale Robinson kind of going to help round out the starting unit. Jalen Hyatt's still up there, kind of been in and out of favor with the Giants, but he's still a part of their wide receiver room at the moment. So Malik Neighbors does appear to be okay after an initial evaluation, but he was at least leaving practice No designation on the cart status. Hopefully, we'll get an update on that as we continue on. Speaking of continuing on, we are going to take our final time out. When we come back on this Top 5 Tuesday edition of Main Street Sports Today, it will be Top 5 Tuesday. Calvin and I will give you our favorite date locations, whether it's a specific spot, whether a nice little backstory, whatever the case may be. We're going to give you our 5 favorite date locations. You're not going to want to miss it. Our final segment on Top 5 Tuesday comes your way right after this here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier Whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
There's a line that links us all. Most of the time, we don't even think about it. But it's everywhere. Illuminating our neighborhoods, empowering our businesses, and helping us to recharge. Whether it comes from our grids, the sun, or a kind heart, we believe in the power of good energy. And as your family and region continue to grow, you can trust that we'll always be there for you. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
Rolling right along into our final segment here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia. That is Calvin White. Wade Neely here, sitting in the saddle. Producer Mark Rogers making the magic happen behind the glass. Calvin, it is Top 5 Tuesday. We started the show by saying high school football and college football season imminently approaching. Kind of time to squeeze in one last moments of quality time, little bit of quality time with our loved ones. And that kind of got me thinking, what are some top 5 places to go on a date? And I mentioned before the break a minute ago, could be specific, could be something, that resonates with you deeply, or could be kind of generic. But in your guest appearance today, as part of our new Tuesday crew here, I'm going to let you start us off. What is your 1-1 selection for a date night, Mr. White?
Looks like you might be having some technical difficulties here.
We'll try and get Calvin back in. It's kind of, he's getting ready to hop back in. Calvin, you back?
I'm back. I don't know what happened.
Not sure what happened, but we're glad that you're back because I was teeing you up, partner. You have the first overall selection for Top 5 Tuesday, and it's best places to go on a date.
Yeah, I had 5 picked out. The tough thing was just ranking them. But I think that I ranked all mine in just kind of in order of personal things that I've done with my girlfriend. So I think that at number 5, I'll put a concert. My girlfriend's big into live music. We saw Luke Combs at Nissan Stadium a couple years ago. That was really fun. We don't get the chance to go to many of those, but when we do, it's really fun. We like those, so I'll put that in my 5 spot.
I love it. I love it. Good pick. Wife and I just went to several shows last week, and a concert is tough to beat, especially, if you're into the same music, it can be extra special. So I love that pull there. My first selection, we're kind of an outdoors couple as well, me and the missus. So I'm going to say a hike. There's so many great parks, so many great spots to go in and around Middle Tennessee, especially, but obviously if you go over to East Tennessee and beyond, some great spots. So give me a good hike, any kind of outdoor activity we're all about. That's my first pick.
Yeah, for my next pick, we've only done this one once, but we had a lot of fun. We went out to a vineyard. I think it was about 2 weeks ago. for our anniversary. We went out there, got a little food to eat, found a little picnic table out there, not in the woods, but in the trees, still in civilization a little bit. So we had a lot of fun at that. I'll throw that in my 4th spot, or my number 2 pick.
Good call there. Good pull there. Up next for me, Chip kind of put this bug in my ear, and I started thinking, and I kind of had to reorder my list. But the wife and I, we've only been a couple of times, but both nights we've gone, it has been fantastic. To bluegrass, kind of amateur bluegrass night at the Station Inn downtown. Haven't been to the Station Inn for any other real shows, but when they have kind of the amateur bluegrass folks that show up, it's really fun, and it's just the vibes there are pretty epic. So I'm going Station Inn number 2 for my pick. Number 3 for you.
My number 3 pick, my girlfriend's not big into sports or athletic activities, but this is the one thing I can get her out to do. I don't know if it even counts as an athletic activity, but we're big mini golf people. We used to, when we were in college at MTSU together, we would go over to the Go USA Fun Park, tee up some mini golf, play 18 holes over there, see who could win over 18 holes. So I'll throw that in my 3 spot.
That's a great spot. And yeah, I haven't tipped into the mini golf scene yet with the missus, but that might be getting added to the list. And you're right, there's some great spots in and around Middle Tennessee to scope that out. Number 3 for me, this is a somewhat cousin, I guess, if you will, of my first one. Especially in the summer, we like to get the tent, load up the dog, and go out for a camping trip. We'll also stay in a tiny home if we can or if we need to. But if you can load up the tent and kind of go camping, we're all about that. So many great state parks in Tennessee. We like to hit as many as we can in the summer. And so I'm going with a good old-fashioned camping trip for my big pick there.
Yeah, my second to last pick, I think I'll go with pottery. We've only done this maybe once or twice. But
yeah,
a couple months ago, back for her birthday, we went there's a place called the Pottery Room over here in Clarksville. You go and you pick out a little ceramic mold type thing, and then you paint it, and then they do all the things to get it ready for you. Then you go pick it back up. So I painted me a little glass dinosaur to pick up later.
I like that. And yeah, and the fact you get the experience there, but you also have something to kind of take home too. That's about as good as it gets in my mind.
Yes.
Good pull by you. Up next for me, this is a weird one, but it is in the food category. But the wife and I are big Jimmy John's fans, and it kind of, there's a way too long of a backstory, but Jimmy John's is kind of a quote unquote treat for us. And, some folks go out to these nice fancy restaurants. When we really want to go out and celebrate, we go to a Jimmy John's. And maybe next week I'll reveal the full story. But Jimmy John's is my number 4, kind of an off the beaten path date night, but a date night nevertheless for me and the wife.
Yeah, my number 1 pick, we've done this a couple times. There's a place over here in Clarksville called Warehouse 41. It's a not an antique store, but it's kind of a thrift store. You go in there and you find a bunch of, old knickknacks and just random objects and things like that. I think I spent $70 in a antique/thrift store a couple weeks ago. I've started collecting these little MLB action figures from like the 80s and 90s, so I started collecting those. But we have a lot of fun doing that. I'll throw that in my number 1 spot.
Good pull there. Last pick for me. It could be a drive-in. It could be at the Bell Court. It could be at a regular theater. But just going to the movies. Wife and I check out a fair amount of movies at the theater, so that is always a fun time. Good list from you, Calvin. Good show from you, Calvin. Way to go, brother. You and David Wilson back in the saddle tomorrow.
I'm excited to do it.
Good stuff. Thanks to Calvin White. Thanks to producer Mark Rogers. I'm Wade Neely saying so long. This has been Top 5 Tuesday on Main Street Sports Today, presented by TOA of Columbia. We will be right back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Calvin and David will be in the saddle, and we will see you then. Have a good Tuesday, folks. We'll see you next time.